She walked up to his table slowly, eyes nervous, voice almost trembling. "Can I sit with you?" she whispered. The restaurant went quiet for a moment. Not because of her. Because everyone already knew the man she was about to sit with. But she didn't. To her, he looked like nothing more than a tired single dad wearing a simple jacket, eating dinner alone with his little daughter. What she didn't know was that the quiet man she chose to sit beside was one of the youngest millionaires in the city. And the moment she sat down, his entire life was about to change. Because sometimes, the most important people enter your life when they have no idea who you really are. And this night would prove that kindness is far more powerful than money. Daniel Carter had learned a long time ago that money could buy comfort, but it could never buy peace. 3 years earlier, Daniel's life looked perfect from the outside. He was the founder of a fast-growing tech company in New York. His startup had exploded in value almost overnight, turning him into a millionaire before the age of 35. Investors praised him. Business magazines wanted interviews. People who had ignored him in the past suddenly wanted to be his friends. But none of that mattered after the accident. On a rainy evening, his wife Emma had been driving home from work when a careless truck driver ran a red light. Daniel still remembered the hospital hallway, the white lights, the sound of machines, the doctor walking toward him with that look people give when they have terrible news. Emma didn't survive. In a single moment, Daniel lost the person who had supported him from the very beginning. And suddenly, all the money in his bank account felt completely useless. The only thing that kept him moving forward was his daughter, Lily. She was 6 years old, with bright eyes and the same warm smile her mother used to have. Lily didn't care about money. She didn't care about business deals or investors. She just cared that her dad was there. So Daniel made a decision that shocked the business world. He stepped away from public life. He hired people to run the company and stopped appearing in the media. Expensive suits were replaced with simple clothes. Luxury parties were replaced with quiet evenings at home helping Lily with homework. Most people in the city had no idea what he looked like anymore. And Daniel preferred it that way. On a chilly Friday evening, Daniel took Lily to a small restaurant not far from their apartment. It wasn't a fancy place. Just warm lights, soft music, and the smell of freshly baked bread. Lily loved it there because the waiter always brought her extra chocolate ice cream. They sat at a small table near the window. Lily was coloring on a piece of paper while Daniel quietly scrolled through emails on his phone. "Daddy," Lily said suddenly, looking up. "Yes, sweetheart. Are you still sad sometimes?" Daniel paused. Kids had a way of asking the hardest questions so simply. "Sometimes," he admitted gently. Lily nodded thoughtfully. "I miss Mommy too." Daniel reached across the table and squeezed her hand. Just then, the restaurant door opened. A young woman stepped inside, brushing raindrops from her hair. She looked around the room nervously. The place was crowded. Every table was full. Her eyes moved from one group of people to another, until they landed on Daniel and Lily's table. An empty chair sat across from them. She hesitated for a moment. Then she walked toward them slowly. Daniel looked up, slightly surprised, as she stopped beside the table. Excuse me," she said softly. Her voice was almost a whisper. "Can I sit with you? Just until a table opens." Daniel noticed the way she held her bag tightly, like someone used to hearing no. Before he could answer, Lily smiled brightly. "You can sit here," she said happily. The young woman laughed nervously and sat down. "Thank you," she said.
I'm Sarah.
Daniel nodded politely. "Daniel, and this is Lily." Sarah glanced at Lily's drawing. "That's beautiful," she said. "It's my family," Lily explained proudly. Sarah looked at the picture. It showed a little girl holding hands with her dad, and a woman drawn above them with angel wings. Something in Sarah's expression softened. "She looks very kind," Sarah said quietly. Lily smiled. She was. Daniel watched the interaction silently. Most people in the city treated him differently when they recognized him. Some tried to impress him. Others tried to gain something from him. But Sarah clearly had no idea who he was. And that made the conversation feel normal. For the first time in a long while, Daniel relaxed. They started talking about simple things. Sarah worked 2 jobs while studying nursing. Her dream was to work in a children's hospital one day. She apologized several times for interrupting their dinner. But Lily kept asking her questions about school, hospitals, and funny stories from her classes. Soon the 3 of them were laughing. For Daniel, it felt strange, but nice. It had been a long time since a stranger spoke to him without expecting anything in return. But not everyone in the restaurant saw it that way. At a nearby table, a group of well-dressed men were watching. One of them leaned towards Sarah with a smirk. "Careful," he said loudly. "That guy doesn't look like he can even afford this place." A few people chuckled. Daniel didn't react. He was used to it. But Sarah turned toward the man, her expression suddenly firm. "That's not very nice," she said calmly. The man laughed. "Relax. I'm just saying, you could probably do better." Sarah looked at Daniel for a moment, then back at the man. "Maybe," she said, "but kindness matters more than money." The restaurant fell quiet. Daniel stared at her in surprise. She had defended him without even knowing him, without knowing the truth. And for the first time in years, Daniel felt something shift inside his heart. Because sometimes, the people who see your true value are the ones who know nothing about your success. But Sarah was about to discover something that would change everything she thought she knew about the quiet single dad sitting across from her. And when the truth finally came out, it would leave the entire restaurant speechless. The evening continued with laughter and simple conversation. Sarah told Lily funny stories about her nursing classes. Lily showed her more drawings. Daniel listened quietly, enjoying the rare moment of peace. Then the restaurant manager suddenly rushed toward their table. His eyes widened when he saw Daniel. "Mr. Carter," he said loudly. The entire room turned. Daniel closed his eyes briefly. He had hoped to avoid this. The manager looked nervous. "I didn't realize you were here tonight. Your private table upstairs is ready." Sarah blinked. "Private table?" she repeated. The manager looked confused. "You don't know?" he asked. Sarah shook her head slowly. The manager turned to her. "This is Daniel Carter, the founder of Carter Technologies." A wave of whispers spread across the restaurant. Sarah's eyes widened. "You're the Daniel Carter?" Daniel gave a small, awkward smile. "I guess so." Sarah looked stunned. "You're a millionaire?" Lily giggled. "My dad says money isn't important." The restaurant had gone completely silent now. Everyone was watching. Sarah sat there for a moment, processing everything. Then she laughed softly. "I guess I should apologize," she said, "for sitting at a millionaire's table without permission." Daniel shook his head. "No," he said gently. "You're the first person in years who didn't care who I was." Sarah looked at him seriously. "That's because it doesn't matter," she said. "Being a good father matters more." Daniel felt his chest tighten. It was such a simple statement, but it meant more than all the business awards he had ever received. The manager stood awkwardly beside the table. "Should I prepare the private room, sir?" Daniel looked at Lily, then at Sarah. Then he shook his head. "No," he said. "We're fine right here." The manager nodded quickly and left. The restaurant slowly returned to normal. But Sarah leaned closer to Daniel. "Can I tell you something honestly?" she said. "Of course. I almost didn't come over," she admitted. "I thought you might say no." Daniel smiled. "I'm glad you didn't." Lily looked between them with a big grin. "Daddy never makes new friends," she announced. Daniel laughed quietly. "Well, maybe I should start." Sarah looked down at Lily's drawing again. The little angel above them. "Your mom would be proud of you," Sarah said softly to Lily. Then she looked at Daniel. "And of you." For a moment, none of them spoke. Because sometimes, the most important connections happen in the simplest moments. No bealt, no status, just kindness. Before leaving, Sarah stood up and picked up her bag. "Thank you for letting me sit with you," she said. Daniel stood as well. "Thank you for choosing our table." She smiled at Lily and waved goodbye. But before she could leave the restaurant, Daniel spoke again. "Sarah," she turned. "Would you like to join us again sometime?" he asked. "Lily could use a friend who tells better stories than me." Lily nodded enthusiastically. Sarah laughed. "I'd like that." And as she walked out into the rainy night, Daniel realized something surprising. For the first time since losing his wife, he didn't feel completely alone anymore. Because sometimes the most valuable thing in the world isn't money. It's the people who choose to sit beside you before they know who you are.